Welcome to VNTR Podcast, presented by VNTR, the world's leading investors community, the place to learn from VCs and capital allocators.
I was part of 150 business adventures. So I created a lot of companies myself, 20 years, and then I started investing 13 years ago. I have 89 portfolio companies right now, 150 situations that I witnessed and still witnessing, and 14 out of these stories became unicorn companies, from seed stage to unicorn. So I'm a 43 bankruptcy survivor. I have seen unicorns coming from nothing. I have seen decacorns and witnessed the entire story. So for people who are starting, my biggest kind of lecture would be to really choose wisely the business model that you pursue.
Hey guys, welcome to VNTR Podcast. Today we are hosting Oskar Hartmann, serial entrepreneur, investor, and unicorn builder and unicorn hunter. Welcome, Oskar. We would love to learn about your journey as an entrepreneur, investor, and let's get started.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
Amazing. Yeah, so maybe you can quickly introduce yourself, like a very short introduction, and then we will dive into your journey.
Yeah. So I'm Oskar. I'm a German, but born in Kazakhstan. There were 3 million Germans in Kazakhstan that then left back to Germany in the 80s and beginning of the 90s. And I was 7 years old when I moved to Germany. And then I was 17 years old when I moved to the US. And I was basically migrating all my life. So I'm a never ending. Now I'm 42 years old and I lived in Japan, in Malaysia, in Ukraine, all over the world, in Dubai, 3 times in the US. This year I'm going back to the US. So moving again. And I think this is a very important part of my life. This is the flexibility in places where I can live. And this is also how I became an entrepreneur, because when I was very small, I realized that in some places where we arrived, there were some things missing that I really liked in other places. So I realized when I was very, very small that there are things to build that can create value by just bringing idea from one place to another. So there's like an arbitrage opportunity. When you're very small, it is more like, building a soccer club or making a volleyball field or doing a Lego room or something like that. But when I was 17, I moved from the US back to Germany, and I brought home several business ideas that to me looked like 100% safe bets. Because when I came back to Germany, for example, there was no Starbucks in Germany, and Starbucks was so popular in the US that to me it looked like this will work 100% for sure. But I was too young to build a Starbucks because you need real estate and hire employees. So the second business model that I found in the US was internet shops, because in 99, there was all kinds of internet shops appearing. And one of the ones I was using myself was bodybuilding.com, and it was sports nutrition products online. So when I came back to Germany, I created the first online shop for sport nutrition in Germany. And that was obviously a very good timing because the .com boom crashed. And from 2000 to 2003, I had no idea that there was a .com boom or a crash. I was just building my own little internet store, and it became successful. So I became an e-commerce entrepreneur, and I kind of found several products where I was the first one to sell them online. And obviously that was the very early days. And that's how I became an entrepreneur. before I finished school. So that was 11th grade, 12th grade, 13th grade. That was my kind of life-changing experience where I understood I can make 20,000 euros profit in 1 month, where the average salary in my hometown was, 10 times smaller than that.
What did you learn from that journey?
I learned that I want to be an entrepreneur. I can. The first experience, I didn't think I can hire people, or I didn't think. So I wanted to build a business that I can build myself. So I was doing everything myself: warehousing, packaging, bookkeeping, everything. And what I learned is that I came from this immigrant mindset where you are thinking very small and you think that big success is reserved for some other people in the world. I realized that I can build something with my own hands and that can be successful. And obviously I understood that, maybe I'm the kind of person that can build even a larger company. And maybe if I can do this, I can do more. So actually at that point, I decided that I want to study more. I want to finish university. Before that, I didn't want to finish university. I said, university is not for me. Even finishing school, I was not sure. But this experience gave me kind of the motivation, the year in America, and this experience, I said, okay, I need to have a degree. Because I thought that's how you learn to hire people. So I thought that the license you need to build a bigger business is some form of economic or business education that teaches you how to build an organization, how to build a system. Versus.
And do you feel like it was useful eventually?
Yeah, I think.
Or retrospectively?
I think it was mega useful because the university I chose in Germany was called WHU. It was the best university in Germany for business. And so I already had enough self-confidence that I said I can go to the best university. And this university is responsible for 4 unicorns in my portfolio, because 4 investments that came from my university alumni network became unicorns. And at some point I checked that if I had invested in every single introduction from my university, I would have been a seed investor in 20% of all German unicorns. That is absolutely phenomenal how a small community of 100 people, 100 alumni per year, such a small community can have such a large impact and percentage of all value created, right? It's the same that we see now where a very small group of people in the US is responsible for 80% of all value creation in AI. It's amazing how concentrated the value creation is happening at the moment. So if you join the right community, you will become, and this community becomes very successful, you will become successful as part of the community. That is, and the university, WHU, is a very good university because what they tell you at the beginning is this is very hard. So this university is very hard to finish. Most people will not be able to finish, and you have to work really hard. So it's like a test that filters out people who are ready to work hard a lot and who are able to control their own behavior, to force yourself to do something even if it doesn't make sense, something something like that. So it gives you a very good test. It tests basically your ability to force yourself over an extended period of time to do whatever is needed to finish this. And then these people are surprisingly good at building businesses and building unicorns, becoming CEOs, and so on. So it was a perfect life at the university. I would pay any amount of money to be able to relive this, 4 years during my diploma at WHU. It's absolutely fantastic.
You found your own mafia in a way.
It's very interesting how this works. Probably you need some scientists to spend 10 years how this works. It's like an informal network, right? But it is very powerful because you have the reference points in your brain. You kind of look, what are your, and I'm super happy that everybody from my class is doing really well in life.
But one of the things that, let's say your parents or your surrounding doesn't teach you when you study is to stay in touch with your alumni, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, in your case, it was very successful. But for example, I studied in one of top universities as well, but I didn't do anything with my alumni in the past years.
Yeah.
And it's very, very, very good feedback or learning that, utilize your alumni properly.
Absolutely, 100%. And they are also one of the things you learn as an immigrant child, because you have all these broken ideas in your mind about who are the people that become successful and who are the people who are, building the important things in the world. And when you go to this university, you see the kids from the richest families in Germany. So they like the people who finished, like elite private schools, people who are like the elite of the elite. And once you are among them, you see that they are not better than you. They are not worse than you. They are not better than you. And you basically become a witness that you are competitive with these people. And then in some things they are better, in some other things you are better. But this is a very important data point for your brain to see that, that you are good enough, that you're good enough for any life choice that you make. And this is really the big kind of upgrade that I got. Like I came into university with this weird immigrant worldview, and then I came out and I was ready to build any company. I said, okay, now I have the right, I have the self-confidence to tackle any opportunity, any. So it was really like that. So I said, I can build any company in any country. That was my mindset when I came out. I don't know how they did it, but that's what happened.
Did you still identify as Kazakh at that point?
No, we never identified as Kazakh because we were born in Kazakhstan, but ethnically Germans, 100%. So both my parents, Richard and Elisabeth, and their parents, all Germans, German settlers. So we were displaced to Kazakhstan during the Second World War. Our grandparents from Ukraine and Siberia and whatever they were displaced to Kazakhstan.
I am also from Kazakhstan. I was born in Almaty. And my parents are also like Ukraine, Russia, local. So yeah.
So we are the same. We are the same tribe. And this was a lot of very talented people because they were not only Germans. There were Greek people. There were Chechen people, Dagestan people. There were a lot of ethnicities that were displaced to Kazakhstan, and it became like a hotbed for talent because a lot of for example, in the village where I grew up, there were the most amazing teachers in the school. They were like the great physicists, like great scientists, amazing people. Actually, the village where I grew up, like 10 people from that village became really, really well-known entrepreneurs. It's like unbelievable. What happens when you kind of just displace a bunch of people based on it's a lot of trauma, but it's a lot of genius that comes out of this. So I also love investing into immigrants. I think a very large proportion of my investments is into immigrant founders. Obviously, because I'm like that myself.
So let's talk about that. For entrepreneurs getting started today. What kind of pieces of advice or what would you recommend they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So fast forward, I was part of 150 business adventures. So I created a lot of companies myself. 20 years. And then I started investing 13 years ago. I have 89 portfolio companies right now, 150 situations that I witnessed and still witnessing. And 14 out of these stories became unicorn companies, from seed stage to unicorn stage. So I probably have seen a lot. I'm not sure. One of my mentors told me, don't make any conclusions before you have not lost $1 billion. So I have not lost $1 billion yet, but I probably lost 150 million. So I'm 15% there to make some conclusions. But I have seen all kinds of outcomes, 43 bankruptcies. So I'm a 43 bankruptcy survivor. I have seen unicorns coming from nothing. I have seen decacorns and witnessed the entire story. So for people who are starting, my biggest kind of lecture would be to really choose wisely the business model that you pursue. This is the most important decision you make. Because as an investor, I look at any situation as I have to decide, is it the founder or the rider or the horse? The horse is the business model, the rider is the founder. What is more important? Of course, both things are important. But when you are the founder, all you have is you. You cannot change the rider. So you are the rider, so you have to choose your horse. You have to choose the horse, and this is the most important decision you make. There's nothing more important except of choosing your life partner, because choosing your life partner will be responsible for 50% of all the emotions that you experience during your life. But in business, how people choose their horse, unfortunately, is very impulsive, very by chance. Especially good entrepreneurs, they are very action-oriented. They're very quick to jump on an opportunity. And that's good when you're a child and you just kind of do something just to prove that you can do something. But at some point when you become serious and you have a child or a family to support, I think the decision what business model to pursue is the most important decision. And it's very much undervalued because there's myths like you can pivot. I have really not experienced the pivot so far. So most people that choose a business model either run it into a wall or make it successful. It's very rare that the company, like the story, like where the company starts with something and it ends up with something completely different. This is an abnormality. I wouldn't count on it. So
stories of Slack or a story of Twitter, right? They started with something and then pivot. Yeah?
It's absolutely the exception of the rule. The rule is if you choose the wrong horse, the most likely outcome is that you will ride a sick horse for 2 years, then a dead horse for 2 years, and then you will kick a dead, already, completely zombie horse in 1 more year. So the reality of the numbers is the following. There's a different kind of fantasies that people have. One is the pivot fantasy. The second is it is much quicker now to build a company fantasy, because we live in a digital world where it seems like now you just create a company, it's quicker, you get the feedback quicker and you can close, change. But in reality, it has become longer to build a successful company. So if you look at the numbers, on average now, it takes 10 years to really prove that you have built a successful business. It takes almost 15 years then to take a company public. And so I have 2 unicorns in India right now. Both, I'm already investor more than 10 years. And I was on a call with both of them and they both explained to me that I should be patient and the IPO is more than 5 years out at least, okay? So it takes a very long time to build a company that is successful. The average dividend, the first dividend is paid in the 8th year. That is all companies, not venture companies, all companies. So it takes a very long time to build a successful company. So how long does it take to fail a company? It's only 2% of the companies that close within the first year. Then there's another 22nd, 30th year. There's a big long tail. So what happens is that the average company that goes bankrupt is a 5 years journey. 5 years of your life. And this is really, can you imagine? So if you make a good choice, it's 10 years of your life. If you make a horrible choice, it is 5 years of your life. So how many of those 5 years do you have? Like, how do these 5 years look like? This is like 100-hour weeks. It's like a never-ending roller coaster of emotions. I'm going to die. I have a
struggle.
It's a struggle. And after these 5 years, you're like completely burned out because you have been beating a dead horse for 3 years. And this is the most likely outcome. So how many of those do you have in you? Okay. So like the energy a person has goes down over time. With 25, you can do stuff that you cannot do with 45. You know, when I was 25, I was able to do 2 all-nighters in a row, not sleep and still function. Now, if I have a bad night's sleep, I'm already not able to function, you know. So how many do you have in you? Maybe 5. Maybe in your entire life, you have, as an entrepreneur, you have 5 shots. Maybe if you're really like a mutant in energy, maybe you have 10 shots. Maybe you become smarter and you kill horses quicker if they're not running. So maybe you have 5 to 10 experiences in your life. So you choose 5 to 10 problems, themes, business models to focus on in your life. And depending on the quality of your choices, this is your destiny. So it's very important. And I see that entrepreneurs are absolutely not serious enough about this choice. So they jump in quickly. They make a decision based on some connection they have, or they have some resource. They say, I have this leg of a dinosaur, so I make a dinosaur now. You know, so people making a lot of uneducated, very important choices. And sometimes they're lucky and sometimes they're not, you know, but I would try to make it less about luck and more about, you know, something that is really your ikigai, you know, that's something that fits you well. I believe a lot in founder product fit. So this is my second advice that I would give. That is, the first is to choose very wisely. And the second would be choose something that fits you. Before finding product market fit, find the product founder fit. And this product founder fit is going to increase your success probability like 3-4 times, because you will be able to run longer, further, endure more, take more hurdles.
I think it's like also not raising too fast, right? So if you raise funding, or let's say you found some fools to support your shitty idea, then it extends your failure, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, and if you bootstrap and try and you faster see that it's not for you.
Yeah, but VNTR is a global community, so. This raising too fast is only a rich people's problem in Silicon Valley and very selected few places. Most places in the world have a crazy underfunding. So, the venture companies are only like 1% of all companies are venture funded. And this 1% is very concentrated. Like if you talk to most people in Indonesia or Vietnam or Africa or even the Middle East, where I spent a lot of time, people think there's a lot of money in Dubai and Saudi Arabia, but there's really none for early stage. It's all late stage real estate, very conservative family office type of money. So there's no money so most people don't have the luxury of, you know, having to reject a lot of funding very early. But you're right. There's definitely in the venture business, there's definitely a tendency to overvalue fundraising and undervalue, you know, value creation and product founder fit and things like that. Yeah, but other than that, you know, so my story, guys, I have to the biggest love I have in my heart is to help people not make life-altering conclusions based on their failures. Because young people, older people, entrepreneurs choose some business model, they go and run, and there's only 25% of the outcome is under their control. There's so much out of their control. And then they have a failure or success, and then they make all kinds of conclusions. They say, I'm not this, I'm not that, I learned, and I think most of these conclusions are wrong. I was lucky enough, can you imagine how this influences your life, right? You have a scientific method. In science, you should not make any conclusions based on less than, let's say, 1,000 data points, right? But in life, we only get this 5 to 10 data points. So we eventually end up all making the wrong conclusions. You know, we all live in our own little delusions. Some business angels, they see, like Fabrice Grinder that was on your podcast, he has seen 1,500 data points. So people who saw 1,500 data points, they're much less quick to jump to conclusions because they have seen too much. They know how the world works in reality. So can you imagine how my story turned out like this? So I had my first 3 business attempts and 7 investments. And it turned out that my first 5 were successful. So I had success, 5. And then I had 15 failures in the row. Failure. So the first 20, I had 5 successes, 15 horrible failures. I could have done them in any order. Can you imagine? Because I had 5 successes at the beginning, it gave me the self-confidence and the capital to endure the failures. But can you imagine I had done it the other way around? Can you imagine I had failure, success, failure. It could have been that the first 3 failures would have killed me, and I would have said,
you would get discouraged. Yeah,
I would got completely. I'm not good at people management. I'm not good at hiring, firing. I'm not good at whatever. So you make all these bad conclusions, but the same person. This is the luck, the luck component. You do the same 20 things, but depending on the order, you make different conclusions in life, right? So I was the lucky one. I'm kind of the bias. I have after 5 successes, I was like completely dangerous person because I thought I can do anything and it will work, right? That's also why I lost $20 million in the year after 5 successes in a row. But I'm still standing and I'm still continuing to build. That's the most important, to stay in the game. The way you lose is by exiting the game. So the key is to stay in the game. Like the number 1 KPI I have for myself, like my king KPI is number of years in the game. I finished university like 17 years ago. So I need 40, 50 more years in the game. That is what will, and just doesn't matter, success, failure, success. Like I just need to stay in the game, never exit the game, right? So you exit the game either by losing it all or by writing yourself off. So this is what that's what I struggle, because sometimes I have these entrepreneurs that failed and they start telling me their life story, and the story is not good, right? It has a bad ending and the reason it has a bad ending is because they built some coffee company in some weird geography, and it's too many conclusions for whatever they tried, right? Like it's not really, so they have not discovered truth. They had just discovered a random experiment. So kind of the most important thing is to not write yourself off no matter what. Just no matter what. It's not possible. You cannot write yourself off in any, just always continue, because 43 bankruptcies is not the whole story. These are only companies. But how many projects did I have inside companies that failed? It's hundreds. So at the end, it's like a story of 150 problems. And then at the end of this 150 problems, you come out, and then CB Insights makes a rating, and I'm like top 20 in the world in what I do. Like the result I have at the end of this is one of the best results in the world. So, but it doesn't feel like it when you're inside. So when you're inside this story, you feel like you're getting hit and hurt, and it's a mess. So yeah,
it's a numbers game, right? Kind of that you have more wins than failures.
Yeah, and it's a low probability game. Building the future, creating new things is a low probability game. And it's a home run game, Yuri. You know better than anybody that nobody cares about your failures. It only matters if you had the home run or not. That's at the end the decisive. And then when you have the home run, that it kind of puts everything into order, right? Just like some people never reach it, and I understand it. I understand it's very hard to have good emotions about yourself when you have 3 bankruptcies in a row.
And then, how did you tolerate failures? Did you work with mentors or with a therapist, or what do you recommend entrepreneurs to have as a toolkit to support them? Because it's I've been through lots of failures as well, and not everything was smooth. It's very hard to fail.
Very hard, and you never get used to it. It's but the lifesavers are first a forum group. I have a forum group, the same forum group since 15 years. So I'm in this community called YPO, and we have forum groups. It's a group of 8 people that meets monthly to help each other grow. And these 8 people, we became witnesses of each other's life. And we have already done more than 150 forums. And this is a lifesaver. This is a lifesaver. The second lifesaver is definitely mentors. People who know how it's like to be you. I had 2 Olivers in my life and several other mentors, and they knew exactly how it is like to be me. And they gave me very, very important ideas, very, very important ideas during that phase. And obviously, it's all about people. All lifesavers are people. Obviously, your life partner is decisive, because I was very lucky. I'm married since 20 years, and it's I think in 2013 was my streak of bankruptcy and failure. It is funny. It was such a crazy event, because I sold my first 2 companies in 2012. And when I was an entrepreneur, exit was like the ultimate end goal, right? So I thought after I sell my company for a big amount, the money problem will be solved and there will be happiness ever after. So what happens is I sell 2 companies in 2012, one for 70 million, one for 10 million. And then 2013 is my worst year ever. It's like what the reality that happened to me was exactly the opposite of my expectations. It was like, it turned out there's so many other problems other than money problems. So I was in hospital. I was almost died. I had insomnia. I was not able to sleep for 4 months. I had the worst quality of life. I was walking around like a zombie, 108 kilo. I had like 30 kilo overweight. I was looking horribly, feeling horribly. I was angry all the time. I was like fighting for life, had all these bankruptcies, all this, and it was the year after my exit. That was a funny. That was a wake up moment. That there's many other problems to solve in life except for business. And I think the reason I came out stronger on the other side is my wife, my forum, and my mentors. And it's really true. I don't know where I would be otherwise. And obviously a little bit luck, because I had these exits and I had the successes in the past. So I had some proof in my brain. So I had some kind of self-confidence to jump back from, right? So I think if the same happened without the successes before, I'm not sure if I had made it on the other side.
And also people saw your success, so they believe that you will succeed again, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then that's what I do now when I invest in people and they fail. I immediately invest in their next venture. Immediately, and then if they fail...
As long as they're in the game.
Yes. And I have a founder now. I invested in his third company. The first two failed. Now I'm invested in the third. I will invest in the fourth. If the person is doing everything right, he's building product value, and he's running into the market, and the market doesn't want whatever he built, I think this is a good failure. This is not a bad failure. So I have people. I have one founder. I am invested the fifth time with the same founder. I have 4 times, 3 times. So this is really.
At what stage do you give up?
No, Yuri. I think that the solution I found now to make it easier is I'm learning stand-up comedy, and every failure is material for my stand-up comedy show. So if you actually don't look at it as serious, if you look at these failures a little bit with humor, it's actually really funny. If you think about it, after 10 years, especially when 10 years have passed and you think back, usually these stories, they are actually quite funny. So I think that humor saves the world, and I have so many funny stories to tell how I believed in something and that it ended up not working at all. Yeah, but it doesn't get easier. Still, when you experience, last year I had 6 pay-to-play rounds. Every pay-to-play round is a mess because you remake the cap table. There's a lot of emotions around and motivations and dreams that have not come true and whatever. And pay-to-play is really bad experience, but also closing. I'm not sure what is worse, pay-to-play or closing.
Can you elaborate on the pay-to-play? What is it? How does it work?
Yeah, pay-to-play is when a company has problems with external fundraising. So the external fundraising process doesn't give any results. And then the founder comes back to existing investors and says, okay, we are almost at break even or whatever, but we need a little bit more money to reach the other side, hopefully. And then internal investors might have different opinions if they are able to support the company. So usually there's several investors, and if one investor, so the easy solution is when all investors just do their pro rata and give the company the money they want. But if one or several investors say they are not able to or don't want to, then the leading investor who is ready to support the company says, we tried it the good way. You are not moving. I don't have time to check the personal situation of every investor. So we just make a motivational scheme. So the motivation scheme is whoever invests remains a shareholder, and whoever doesn't invest gets wiped out. So the wipeout can be 100%, 90%, 50%. So basically, by not moving, you lose a significant percentage of your ownership in the company. So you need to put money, your pro rata, to remain the same shareholder as you were before. And this is a very unpleasant because 2021, 2022 beginning was the hype, and then we entered like a very strong correction. So end of 2022, 23, 24 was a difficult period, except AI. Okay, AI is a separate universe. Everything outside AI was in a very correction winter period. So all the companies that were not AI were trying to make it to the other side. Some became profitable. Some did not quite make it. Some were too early to become profitable. And after 2 years, the environment became a little bit more hostile. So the investors that were ready to support companies in their portfolio became more aggressive towards investors that want to free ride. Sometimes it's not as aggressive, but last year it became quite common for investors who support to say, guys, this is not going to be free. So there's no free lunches. So it became quite common to do this pay to play rounds, which is obviously very bad for business angels, because funds, VCs, they always have some pocket of money to protect their ownership. But business angels had no exits for 2.5 years. There was almost no exits, no IPOs. So business angels having no liquidity were wiped out in a lot of situations, which is really not fair, because business angels are often treated like funds in these situations. But it is what it is. Sometimes you have to support, but the cap table is being remade. Sometimes it's fair, sometimes unfair, but it's not pleasant, these situations, because you kind of, as an early stage investor, what you want is to support the founder early stage, and then he goes his own way, and then he values your contribution even beyond stage seed, right? So he keeps the memory how the company actually appeared. But some founders, they forget.
Many of them forget.
Yeah. So and sometimes the new investor who comes says, why do we need all these people on the cap table? And there's things like that. But it's all part of this big game of unicorn hunting, and I think it's okay. But it was a difficult year for me because no exits for 2.5 years, a lot of pay to play rounds. So you have to protect your positions. But I was able to kind of navigate. Now it's looking a little bit better. And the most important thing is I came out with, with all relationships intact, no bad feelings. Everything is good.
Good karma.
Yeah, good karma. Yeah.
And do you consider yourself an angel investor or a VC?
No, I'm investing my own money. I don't have LPs. So I'm a business angel full time now because I have 4 kids, and my 4 kids are all 4 unicorns. I consider them like unicorns. So in order to live, right now is the prime time for my fatherhood. So I was thinking, what is prime time for business? What is prime time for sports? What is prime time for parenting? And prime time for parenting is now for me, because all my kids are in the stage where they really need their father. So I said, during my prime parenting time, I don't want to be building unicorns, because building unicorns requires sacrifice. And the sacrifice is very big. Very big. It's a huge sacrifice. You fly out when your kids are sick. You have to go to business meetings. It's all these choices in life. And when I meet unicorn founders all the time, I'm always surprised. They put a meeting at 4 a.m. and then I'm like, okay, is 5 a.m. already taken? He's like, yes, 6 a.m. is taken and 11 p.m. is taken. It's only 4 a.m. So last time I had a meeting with a unicorn founder, we were meeting at 4 a.m. in the lobby. And I was like, okay, and there's a sacrifice. So at the moment I'm like, okay, business angel is compatible with being a father. So I'm a full-time business angel. So hunting unicorns as an angel is much more under your control versus building a unicorn, where it's almost I always say, like having sex with a gorilla. You're not done before the gorilla is not done. So and as an angel, you are in the zoo watching the show, giving some advice to the guy fighting the gorilla. So I think as a business angel, I can work 100 hours one week. I can work 10 hours the next week if my kids are sick or something. So
it's better for lifestyle balance for you.
Yeah, it allows me to fully control where I spend my time. And it's interesting enough for me to still, feel really good about my business ventures, about my adventures, about adding value, doing something with your own hands. So I do feel a strong participation in the stories that I am invested in. So I do have like an immersive experience. It's just not as hardcore as the first founder's view. But I want to build a company again. I'm more an entrepreneur than investor. I just have to wait until my kids become 18 or 15.
And then you're too old to start.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm watching some entrepreneurs who are building stuff I have some entrepreneurs when I look at them, how actively they are after 60, after the kids move out of the house, and it's amazing periods. I think it's almost prime time for being an entrepreneur is when kids move out of the house. That's how I see it. But I'm a full-time business angel. I realize that people like me are very lonely because basically they are mostly lonely warriors. They don't have teams. They invest their own capital. So they mostly do Zoom calls, sitting in their house and feeling quite lonely. So I started uniting people like me. So I kind of looked at who are the top 1,000 business angels in the world. And then I reached out to all of them. So far, I have spoken to 700 out of the 1,000. And I said, let's unite. Let's be lonely together. And so I'm doing a lot of things for business angels. So I'm making a Netflix documentary about business angels right now. So if somebody's watching and has a great story for my documentary, I'm recording all of this year to show the world why business angels exist, what is their value in the marketplace, why does this exist in every single country in the world since thousands of years. It's a big phenomena. Business angels invest $50 billion per year and do 75% of all seed deals are not funds, are private people. So it's an important element of the global ecosystem.
And how do you record the show? Is it online or you do offline?
Offline. It's a Netflix documentary, so they have a very high quality requirement for. So we have to do it offline. So I'm traveling so I want to. There's amazing stories, like Martin Warshawski, who dedicated his life now to fertility and solving the population crisis. And there's all kinds of angels in the world that are just, doing amazing things. And nobody knows about these stories. Obviously, the rock stars are the unicorn founders, the Sam Altmans of the world. But I think there's a case to be made that angels also have some contribution to all the good stuff.
And what is the best way to join you? Like how they can reach out to you or connect to you? Or
yeah, exactly. You can write to me on my LinkedIn or Oskar@hartmann.holdings. You can find my website, my contact. But so I'm doing everything for angels. I'm doing a conference just for business angels every year. And I'm trying to kind of find ways how we can share upside, share downside, learn from each other, grow together. And so we have 40 members so far in my Super Angel Club. This is also one of the things I do for myself when I gave the advice, like using your alumni network, right? So looking forward, it's like, who are the people that surround you in order to increase the chances of a better life for you, right? So we are living in, like the way I see the world right now, 20 years ago when I started, there was a lack of internet just started. There was arbitrage opportunities because information was not evenly spread over the world, right? So there was such a high value of having information. For example, I knew that Starbucks existed and nobody in Germany knew that Starbucks existed, right? And all the time, like 15 years ago, we had all these arbitrage business opportunities. When a business model worked in one country, you could just do the same thing in another country and get the same results. But now we live in a completely different world where we have overflow of information. So now the amount of information that enters people's brain, the latest statistic is 12 hours of content per day on average. And super users have 17 hours of content per day. That means people are doing things in parallel, listening to music while working or listening to a podcast while working. And so now the challenge for us as investors is, how do you increase the quality of your brain? I have this neural network that makes decisions, a decision-making tool. And the quality of information that enters my brain is the quality of my decisions, right? So so basically I'm building a community in order to get higher quality information. Otherwise, I will be sitting there thinking about Trump coin one day, about, something that the news or whatever, and then my brain and my decision quality will be very low. So that's why I'm building this network, basically, to say, okay, I want to be part of a community that will be moving up, like becoming more successful, helping each other, and less lonely on the way.
Yeah, it's a good approach, and we are building a community as well, right? And we should collaborate. We have more than 1,500 angels in our community already.
Yeah, what you're doing is absolutely amazing, Yuri. I'm really fascinated, and the way you do it is really special. I think
it takes time.
It's a superpower. I think it's a superpower that you have as a person, as a human. You have a superpower, and this is really special. So I think what you're doing is really, really interesting. I think it's the value of your network is hundreds of times more than the current money that is kind of flowing. There's a lot of value created as a side.
Yeah. So we are working on how to extract the value by providing more value. So the goal is to provide more value, and through that extract more value for ourselves. But it's a process, and happy to collaborate with you and see how we can make the life of angels less lonely. But again, VC funds, the GPs are also struggling, right? It's kind of I'm sure you had the thought of launching your own fund at some point. Right. Let's say when you exit, you could go to the route. Okay, I'll start a VC fund. I'll stop building. Right. And it's also struggle. It's like launching a startup. Right. You need to convince LPs to invest in you. You need to build a team. You need to struggle to get deal flow, etc. Right. So it's a bit like building a startup. Did you consider launching your own fund?
I did not. I had to consider because at some point one person offered me 250 million to manage on top of my own money, and I rejected because I chose freedom, and I chose being able to make decisions in a more informal way over having a bigger wheel to spin. But it's true, fund is probably the end, like the successful communities that ended up being very well monetized as well. They just had a very large percentage of community members that did well in life. And this ends up in creating some kind of community fund or community asset. Something is growing out of this, right? So some communities have $1 billion fund at the end because the members of the community become so successful but it takes a generation.
Yeah, it takes 20 years. Yeah. Exactly. And that's why I'm saying what we are building is a marathon, right? It appreciates with time. And as you say, It's all about the network relationships that you build through it.
Yeah, but then it survives. Like YPO founder is already dead a long time, and YPO is still growing, striving. It's these communities. They are very long lived. They live much longer than companies.
So you started multiple communities, right? Like yourself, like entrepreneurs community, Equilibrium, or some other communities. What was the reasoning to do so? Or how you utilize it for deal flow these days?
No, it started as a pure give back. So when I sold my first company, I was so grateful to the world. So I wanted to give back. So I was young and stupid. I was 29 years old. So I just said, I will check I took all my favorite entrepreneurs in the world. I made a list of all the non-profit projects they have. And I said, instead of doing all the mistakes, I'm going to do whatever they ended up doing. So what I found out is that 50% of all my favorite entrepreneurs created talent foundations. So they created specific programs, scholarship programs, or programs to fund talented people. So I ended up doing the same. I created a scholarship program, not even knowing why it works, but now
it work.
Now I did about 30 different experiments in nonprofit, all kinds of things, and the only things that worked were community based. So community based programs have the highest return on dollar by far. Like it's not even close. So they say, don't give a poor person a fish, teach him how to catch fish, right? But I think it's not true. I think build a community for people, and they will learn how to fish, how to hunt, how to make food, and they will, learn thousands of things. So there's it's one more element above. So what I learned is that communities are the most powerful tools. So it's the scholarship programs and the talent networks, all kinds of social lifts that put people up, that increase self-confidence. And now I do only this. So I said, okay, in my nonprofit work, I will do only community-based. It usually takes less than $1 million to build a community. And then after that, it becomes kind of self-evolving system. And these communities can create billions of value, billions, and they can last for centuries. So, So everything is around entrepreneurship development. So I do youth entrepreneurship, female entrepreneurship, everything. Now there's also a big topic of entrepreneurship in older age, everything that improves the chances of potential being realized.
Yeah, we want to launch VNTR Kids, so that kids can learn from early on, and our members are entrepreneurs, investors, but they don't spend enough time to teach their kids to be entrepreneurs. So we want to have programming for kids across our chapters as well.
Yeah,
and involve the community again to generate that value for the kids.
Yeah. No, I love this, and it's great to match kids with some adult who has similar conditions like them, right? So if you have an ADHD kid, then you match him with some successful entrepreneur who also had the same condition, right? Or if somebody was like an immigrant, whatever, you match them with someone who was the same, and then they have a relevant person in life, somebody who's, except their parents, an important adult who is like a role model. And this is a very strong effect.
Can I ask, just going back to your mentorship, you say mentorship was very helpful for you. Have you got any advice on how to find and secure a good mentor for entrepreneurs or investors out there?
Yeah, I think my advice is very uncommon because I manage everything in my life, I manage the same as in business. My health, I manage as a business. Relationships, I manage like a business. All my private life, I do the same thing as business. I do strategy sessions, I do OKRs, I do deadlines, responsible, delegation, everything, vision, mission. I even have a logo. In terms of relationships, I think it's the hardest resistance people face when managing relationships in a more systematic way. So I was finding mentors just like I was finding investors. So I had the funnel. I said, these are my dream targets. And then I reached out to them, and mostly they were rejecting me. And sometimes I had to fight hard to meet them. For example, the founder of One Privé, Jacques Antoine, he was very important for me because he was the biggest one in the world who built the same thing that I was building. And he told me no. That was already good because you get an answer. Like the worst is not getting any reply, right? So he wrote no. So I already knew that at least he read it. So then I went to his office. I traveled to Paris. I came to his office, and I was a stalker, basically. So I wrote to him that I'm sitting downstairs. I just need 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And he looked out of the window. He saw me sitting there like a little homeless guy. And he let me in, and we spent 3 hours together.
And these three, you were very upfront about wanting a mentor, right?
Yeah. So it's basically any wound I have. If I'm wounded, I always think that there must be a person in the world who has the same scar of the same shape like my wound. And I'm trying to find this person. So when I was 27 years old, and all of a sudden I had a business with $100 million of turnover and 1,000 employees, it was a mega struggle for me. I was hiring 25 people per week, and I was a young, unexperienced person. So I said, okay, I have a huge wound. Who in the world took companies from 100 million to 1 billion? Who already did this? Who knows how it's like to be me? And then I wrote to all of them. And it's a funnel. You reach out to 100 people, you have one success. It's the same conversion rate as with financial investors. Obviously, Niko, there are some people sometimes when you just go in life, you just go about your life, you might encounter some people randomly, and then they become important in your life. Maybe it's in the fitness club, or maybe it's in a business club, or there's some people that appear. Maybe it is one of your investors. Maybe it is somebody just close to the family, and you're like, wow, this is a very important person. And this happens organically. But organically doesn't happen too often. So you have to do inorganically. And inorganically is people are super open. Like the best conversion rate I ever had, Niko, was, okay, I decided, I made my life plan. I said, I'm going to be a business angel until 50. From 50 to 60, I will build one more company. And from 60, I will build a university. So my dream is to build a university. So when I did this strategy, I said, okay, I have to find people who already went this route. There must be people in the world who were entrepreneurs, investors, and built a university. So I did my research, and I found 20 people in the world who already built a university, who were investors and entrepreneurs before. So I wrote to all of the 20. I wrote to 20 people. I found out their contact details through YPO, through other networks. And I wrote to them, I'm Oskar. I'm 42 years old. I was an entrepreneur. Now I'm an investor. I want to build a university. I have following the big questions in my brain about building a university. Can we exchange notes for 30 minutes? 20 out of 20 replied. Everybody replied. Everybody. It's unbelievable. And then we spent hours discussing what is the right approach to building a university. And I learned so many things. And now some of these people, some of them are now part of, they're like, yeah, I'm happy to be in your advisory board or whatever. It's amazing how much people are ready to give back and help people who remind them of themselves 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's a human nature. It's human nature. It's this. I do the same to other people who approach me. So I think there is a systematic approach to it, and you would be surprised. The more your project is mission-based, the higher the conversion rate. So if you ask people, if you say, I have $100 million business, I want to go to $1 billion, can you help me? Your conversion rate will be 1%, because generally people are not very interested to help other people become rich. But when you say, I want to fertility, like there's 25% of families in the world who cannot make kids, who want to have kids. I want to help 10% of them. Then you will have a conversion rate of 10%, because some people agree with your philosophy, some don't. But when you say, I want to build a university, everybody, you have a conversion rate of 100%, because education is the universal good. So.
Yeah. So let's assume you got a mentor and got their attention. How do you effectively utilize their time or advice? Like, do you have some framework? Because, in the past, I also had some advisors and mentors, but I failed to properly utilize them as a resource. Or at some point, how do you keep the engagement and how do you structure?
Okay, my mindset was the following. This is like a $1 million meeting, okay? So usually the people that were helping me, if they would sell 2 hours of their time, it would cost $1 million. It's like having lunch with Warren Buffett or whatever, right? So you treat this meeting like $1 million meeting. So I was preparing, I think my mindset was the following. I was preparing for a meeting with my mentor as if I would be preparing a board meeting. So usually a board meeting in business, so again, I apply all concepts of business to life. This is my kind of general viewpoint. So I say, how much time do I spend preparing a board meeting? No, usually it's at least 2 weeks of preparation. You have some numbers, you have some key points you want to deliver, and then you think about, if you're the CEO and you're preparing a board meeting, you have to think, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? You actually value the time of the board so much that you have to, every sentence has to be, like a weight of gold, right? So you have to think, you have to be very careful, because if you use the wrong words, they might lose confidence or have, it's very important. So I was having the same approach with mentors. So I was coming super prepared, having numbers, having a report, telling them the truth, being honest, 100% honest about the problems. That's also something you should do in your board, right? If you're not honest, and the board will always question everything you say. So, and I was trying to make it as short as possible, keeping them informed and just like valuing their time as much as possible. I think that's basically it. And for them to help you, they have to have a better knowledge of the facts, right? Because they cannot give advice if they have the wrong picture. So, but sometimes it does. Sometimes it's one word. Sometimes it's just a call when you are like confused, or sometimes it's just somebody can say one word or give you like one metaphor, and it sticks in your brain, and you're like, it's unbelievable, the impact. I call this life-changing conversations. So they are life-changing. Really, a conversation is life-changing, and speaking to a person is life-changing.
How did you reward your mentors?
Yeah, this was all non-financial, because as soon as somebody has a share in the company, the issue is that
They get biased.
there's a conflict of interest, right? And maybe you have a problem in private that you want to say, but then he will be confused because you're spending time on not the company. So there's conflicts of interest. The best mentors are people.
Independence.
Yeah, independent. I think you have different kind of mentorship. I mean, investors can be mentors, but if they own 15% of your company, they basically want you to be all in.
Exactly.
They want you to sacrifice, and sometimes they're wise enough to tell you maybe you should diversify, or buy a house at least, or something like that. But a lot of times they consider everything a conflict with their own position. But there are some mentors, sometimes when you do sports, your coach. I did a lot of sports in my life, and coaches, they are much more than just telling you how much weight to squat and how many times to do push-ups, right? So they become a little bit, they know everything that's happening in your life, and they become like life mentors as well. And usually, so I have a lot of gratefulness for my coaches in sport, because they taught me a lot of things outside sport. And but I had some mentors, I incentivized them later. So I gave them shares in something. There's a way, but I think the biggest reward for mentors is seeing you succeed. So seeing it from the other side, because I mentor so many people, and I've mentored, I've spent a lot of time witnessing other entrepreneurs, also without having a share, as an independent mentor. So I think I have more than 20 people who I followed for at least 2 years as a non-profit adventure. And the reward for the mentor is just your success, the success of your mission. So I think the people who helped me build the university, they will be very satisfied when they see a university with students, and it will be a great pleasure for them.
Do you see it as a physical university, or when you're ready, the world will change, right? It's it might be a very different structure.
Yeah, the future of universities is communities. Communities will be the universities of the future.
Community-driven university.
Yeah. Communities will be the universities of the future, and they will be the top universities of the future will be offline, because offline communities will be a luxury. So there will be a lot online, but for people who can afford it, offline will be the modus operandi. So it will be a combination of online and offline, but offline will be a very important component. You do so many events, you know exactly how the world works. So we are still humans after all. And so I envision this is the future. And by the way, one of the rewards for mentors is actually, when I mentor people, and my students have been unbelievable. I learn so much from them. Because my knowledge, some of my knowledge is so old. Like I still used to take an office, put people in an office, and I have all these old marketing tricks that I was doing but when I witness my students, I feel like I'm actualized. I'm actually right. Everything is different, and I learn so much and some of them become so successful. You're like absolutely mind blown. So there's a reward for mentors just to be in touch with the world, to see through somebody else how things can be done. So I think it's a two-way. I don't think you should worry too much about incentivizing the mentor, because they do it to give back the things they receive themselves, or to experience good emotions and feel good about themselves.
So I think we had an amazing conversation. Like you shared so many great advice, and we will be happy to cut very good shorts to educate others from your insights. And let's collaborate. Like we are building also lots of very aligned things with your mindset. So let's have a chat to discuss how we can support each other.
Yeah. No, you do much more. You do much more. You unite, investors and entrepreneurs and family offices. And my focus is 100% on business angels, people who invest their personal money into technology, venture, and this is my biggest passion at the moment.
So we identify that each persona needs something else, right? So angels, they have their own kind of insights, network that they need. Deal flow is very different. Family offices, they want safe place for them to connect with each other and share insights. The GPs want to connect with LPs or get insights from other GPs or co-invest. CVCs, they also have very different, it's like large community, and within that there are sub-communities that want to connect with like-minded people. And right now we are kind of, we learned a lot, and now going deep into each of these, and soon you'll see, family office summit or angel summit or, a CVC summit, because they want to be with like-minded people.
Yeah,
and
Angel Summit.
Let's do it together. Let's do it together. We have thousands of them.
Let's do it. I mean, yeah, thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Have a beautiful day.
Yeah, thank you, Oskar.